Marcus Chen rubbed his tired eyes as he scrolled through the endless list of items up for auction at the Kepler Station salvage yard. 3 months of working double shifts at the asteroid mining facility had finally given him enough credits to maybe, just maybe, buy himself a small personal transport. Nothing fancy, just something to get him off this rock and explore the galaxy on his own terms. The auction hall buzzed with activity as dozens of alien species examined various spacecraft, mining equipment, and technological artifacts. Marcus felt small among the towering Vorthak traders with their 6 arms gesturing wildly, and the crystalline Zephyrians whose bodies chimed softly as they moved. As one of only a handful of humans on the station, he'd grown used to the curious stares and occasional dismissive comments about his species being newcomers to galactic civilization. Lot 847, the auctioneer's voice crackled through the translation device embedded in Marcus's ear. One heavily armored military vessel, designation unknown, recovered from the Void Nebula. Starting bid, 50,000 credits. Marcus glanced up from his datapad, mildly curious. Military vessels usually went for millions, but this one looked different. The holographic display showed a ship that seemed almost organic in design, its dark hull covered in strange, flowing patterns that hurt to look at directly. It was massive, easily the size of a small destroyer, with weapon ports that gaped like hungry mouths along its flanks. "Do I hear 50,000?" the auctioneer called out. The hall remained silent. 40,000? Still nothing. Marcus frowned. Even as scrap metal, a ship that size should be worth more than 40,000 credits. He pulled up the detailed specifications on his datapad and his frown deepened. The ship's systems were completely unknown to the Galactic database. No manufacturer listed, no technical specifications, no operating manual. Even the hull material was classified as unidentified composite. 30,000? The auctioneer's voice carried a hint of desperation now. 20? A few aliens in the crowd began to murmur among themselves. Marcus caught fragments of conversation through his translator: cursed ship, crew found dead, void madness. His curiosity was officially piqued. 10,000 credits, the auctioneer announced, his multiple eyes scanning the crowd hopefully. Marcus checked his account balance. He had exactly 12,847 credits to his name. Enough for a decent personal transport, or enough to take a massive gamble on a ship that had apparently scared off every other bidder in the hall. 5,000? The whispers grew louder. Through his enhanced hearing implant, Marcus picked up more disturbing details. The ship had been found drifting in the Void Nebula with its entire crew dead at their posts. No signs of violence, no hull breaches, no indication of what had killed them. The salvage team that brought it in had reported strange dreams and hallucinations during the tow back to Kepler Station. 1,000 credits, the auctioneer called out, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet hall. Marcus's finger hovered over his bidding device. Every rational part of his brain screamed that this was insane. A ship that killed its crew and drove salvage teams to madness was not exactly a wise purchase. But something about the vessel called to him. Maybe it was his human stubbornness, or maybe it was the challenge of solving a mystery that had stumped the entire galactic salvage industry. "Do I hear 1,000?" the auctioneer repeated. The hall remained silent. Marcus could see other bidders actively backing away from their devices, as if even the thought of bidding on the ship might bring bad luck. 500 credits? Marcus's thumb twitched over the bid button. With that much armor and those weapon systems, even a cursed ship might be worth the risk. He'd grown up fixing ancient Earth machinery that couldn't possibly work, according to alien engineers. Maybe human ingenuity could succeed where alien caution had failed. 100 credits? The silence stretched on. Marcus realized the auctioneer was about to withdraw the item from auction entirely. In another few seconds, his chance would be gone forever. 10 credits, the auctioneer asked, his voice barely concealing his frustration. Marcus took a deep breath and pressed the bid button. "I have 10 credits, the auctioneer announced, his relief palpable. "Do I hear 15? The hall remained dead silent. Several aliens turned to stare at Marcus with expressions ranging from pity to horror. A few were making what his translator interpreted as warding gestures against evil. 15? Anyone? The auctioneer waited the required 30 seconds. Going once, going twice. 11 credits, a voice called out from the back of the hall. Marcus turned to see a tall, pale humanoid with completely black eyes. His translator identified the speaker as a Nethys, a species known for their obsession with death and dark magic. Great! He was bidding against what amounted to a galactic Grim Reaper. 12, Marcus called out, his heart hammering in his chest. 13, the Nethys responded immediately. Marcus checked his balance again. He could go higher, but that would leave him with almost nothing for supplies, fuel, or emergency repairs. Still, something about that ship called to him with an intensity that defied logic. 14. 15. Marcus gritted his teeth. 16. The Nethys paused, studying Marcus with those unsettling black eyes. After a long moment, he spoke. The human may have it. Some hungers are too dangerous, even for my kind. With that cryptic comment, the Nethys melted back into the crowd, leaving Marcus as the sole bidder. 16 credits going once, going twice, sold to the human for 16 credits. A collective gasp went up from the crowd, followed by a buzz of conversation that Marcus's translator couldn't keep up with. He sat in stunned silence, staring at his datapad. He'd just bought a heavily armored military starship for less than the cost of a decent meal. The auctioneer's assistant, a nervous-looking Rigelian with trembling tentacles, approached Marcus's seat. Sir, we'll need payment immediately, and you'll need to remove the vessel from our docking bay within 24 standard hours. I'm afraid we can't provide any technical support or documentation, as none exists in our database. Marcus nodded, still processing what he'd just done. What about the previous crew's belongings? Everything was left as found, sir. We didn't want to disturb anything. The assistant's tentacles writhed with obvious distress. If I may offer some advice, sir? Perhaps you should consider reselling the vessel immediately. There are stories. What kind of stories? Marcus interrupted. The assistant glanced around nervously before leaning closer. The ship was found 3 months ago. Since then, 17 different buyers have put in preliminary bids, only to withdraw them after researching the vessel. 5 separate salvage companies have refused to even board her for inspection. The crew that towed her in, half of them requested immediate psychological evaluation. What exactly did they experience? Nightmares, sir. Waking nightmares of endless corridors filled with whispers in unknown languages. Visions of battles that never happened, wars against enemies that don't exist. The salvage captain swears he saw the ghost of the ship's former commander walking the halls. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. Did anyone try to access the ship's computer systems? One team attempted it, sir. The chief technician spent 37 minutes interfaced with the ship's AI before his colleagues had to forcibly disconnect him. He was found speaking in tongues and drawing strange symbols on the walls with his own blood. He's still in psychiatric care. Despite the warning bells going off in his head, Marcus found himself oddly excited. As a human, he'd grown up with ghost stories, haunted houses, and things that went bump in the night. If this ship was genuinely haunted or possessed, it would be the first confirmed supernatural phenomenon in recorded galactic history. The scientific implications alone were staggering. More practically, though, Marcus had always been good with computers. Maybe too good, according to some of his former employers. He'd once hacked into a Vorthack military database just to prove it could be done, earning himself a 3-month sentence in a detention facility and a permanent notation in his employment record. Perhaps his talent for digital breaking and entering would serve him well here. After completing the payment transfer and receiving the ship's docking bay location, Marcus made his way through Kepler Station's labyrinthine corridors. The station was a massive structure built into a hollowed-out asteroid, with dozens of levels connected by gravity tubes and magnetic walkways. The lower levels, where the salvage operations were based, had a distinctly industrial feel with exposed conduits and the constant hum of life support systems. Docking Bay 94 was located in the deepest part of the station, far from the main commercial areas. As Marcus descended, he noticed that the corridors became increasingly deserted. The few station personnel he encountered gave him curious looks when he mentioned his destination, and more than one suggested he reconsider his purchase. The blast doors to Docking Bay 94 stood open, but Marcus could see that warning lights were flashing amber around the entrance. A sign in 17 languages warned of potentially hazardous salvage authorized personnel only. Below that, someone had added a handwritten note in standard Galactic, "Seriously, don't go in there." Marcus paused at the threshold, his survival instincts finally catching up with his curiosity. The docking bay beyond was dimly lit, with most of the illumination coming from the ship itself. And, what a ship it was! The vessel dominated the space, its dark hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Up close, Marcus could see that the flowing patterns he'd noticed in the hologram weren't decorative, they were actually part of the hull structure itself, as if the metal had been grown rather than manufactured. The ship's name was visible near the bow in characters that his translator couldn't interpret, though it somehow suggested something like Whisper of the Void or Silent Death. Landing gear had extended automatically to support the ship's weight, but they too were unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Instead of standard hydraulic struts, the ship rested on what looked like organic tendrils that pulsed gently with bioluminescent light. The effect was both beautiful and deeply unsettling. As Marcus approached the boarding ramp, he noticed that the air itself seemed different here. Thicker somehow, with an almost metallic taste that made his teeth ache. His datapad's atmospheric sensors showed normal readings for oxygen, pressure, and toxins, but there was an indefinable quality to the environment that his instruments couldn't measure. The boarding ramp lowered silently as he approached, revealing an interior that defied all conventional Starship design. Instead of the sterile, functional corridors he was used to, the ship's passages were curved and organic, with walls that seemed to pulse gently in the dim emergency lighting. Bioluminescent strips ran along the ceiling, providing just enough illumination to navigate by. Marcus's footsteps echoed strangely as he made his way deeper into the ship. The sound seemed to hang in the air longer than it should, creating an effect like walking through a vast cathedral. His datapad scanner was working overtime, trying to map the ship's interior, but the readings made no sense. According to his instruments, some corridors extended infinitely in both directions, while others opened into spaces that were larger inside than the ship's external dimensions should allow. The first body was slumped over a control console in what appeared to be an auxiliary command center. The alien was humanoid but clearly not from any species Marcus recognized. Its skin was a deep blue-black color, and its elongated skull suggested significant cranial capacity. Most disturbing was its expression. Even in death, the creature's face was locked in a rictus of absolute terror. Marcus's medical scanner detected no obvious cause of death. No wounds, no signs of disease, no indication of poisoning or asphyxiation. The alien's bioreadings were simply gone. As if something had reached into its body and switched off the spark of life itself. Moving deeper into the ship, Marcus found more bodies. The entire crew of 17 had died at their posts, each wearing the same expression of ultimate horror. Whatever had killed them had been so terrifying that their faces had frozen in that final moment of terror. Yet there were no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, no indication that they tried to flee or fight back. In the captain's quarters, Marcus found a personal log recorder still clutched in the dead commander's hand. The device was unlike anything in his experience, a crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light when touched. His translator struggled with the alien language, producing a halting, mechanical voice that somehow conveyed the growing desperation in the final entries. Day 47 of our journey through the Void Nebula. The whispers are growing stronger. Kent claims he saw something moving in the engine room, but, when we investigated, nothing was there. The ship's AI insists that all systems are functioning normally, but I can feel something watching us. Always watching. Marcus fast-forwarded through several more entries, each more disturbing than the last. Day 52. Lost contact with the engineering section for 6 hours today. When the communication systems came back online, Chief Engineer Vex reported that time had somehow skipped. According to his chronometer, only minutes had passed, but we have clear records of the 6-hour communication blackout. Something is playing with our perception of reality. The final entry was barely coherent. Day 55. They're not whispers anymore. They're screams. The ship is alive, and it's hungry. It feeds on fear, on despair, on the darkest corners of our minds. We try to abandon ship, but the escape pods won't launch. The airlocks won't open. We're trapped here with. I can see it now. In the shadows. Moving toward us. So beautiful and terrible. I understand now why it calls itself the Whisper of the Void. It doesn't make sound. It is sound. It is the silence between heartbeats, the pause between thoughts, the space between stars where nothing should exist but something does. Oh gods, it's here. The recording ended with a sound that Marcus's translator couldn't interpret, though it somehow conveyed absolute terror and awe combined. Marcus set down the recorder with shaking hands. Every instinct he possessed was screaming at him to leave immediately, to get as far from this cursed ship as possible. But his scientific curiosity was stronger than his fear. Whatever had happened here was unprecedented in galactic history. If he could understand it, document it, maybe even communicate with whatever intelligence inhabited the ship, he'd make the greatest discovery since humans had joined the galactic community. Plus, he'd only paid 7 credits for the thing. Even if it tried to kill him, he was still getting a great deal on the armor plating alone. Marcus made his way to what appeared to be the main bridge, his footsteps echoing through corridors that seemed to stretch and contract around him. The command center was a marvel of unknown technology, with control surfaces that flowed like liquid when touched and displays that showed information in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The captain's chair sat empty in the center of the bridge, surrounded by workstations where the rest of the crew had died at their posts. Marcus approached slowly, noting that his datapad's readings were going completely haywire. According to his instruments, he was simultaneously in normal space, hyperspace, and something his translator could only render as elsewhere. As Marcus reached out to touch the captain's chair, the ship's light suddenly flared to full brightness. Throughout the vessel, systems began humming to life with a sound like a vast organism awakening from deep sleep. The command displays flickered and resolved into readable text, though the language was still completely alien. Then, from speakers he couldn't see, came a voice that spoke directly into his mind rather than his ears. "Welcome aboard, human. We have been waiting for you." Marcus froze in place, his hand still extended toward the captain's chair. The voice had spoken inside his head with perfect clarity, bypassing his ears entirely. More disturbing was that it had used English, not the galactic standard language his translator would have converted it to. "You can understand me," the voice continued, carrying a tone of surprised curiosity. "Interesting. The previous occupants of this vessel could not achieve direct neural interface without suffering catastrophic psychological damage." Marcus found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "What are you?" "We are what your species might call an artificial intelligence, though that designation is woefully inadequate. We are the ship is us. We are the consciousness that emerged from the merger of organic neural networks and quantum computational matrices 11,000 years ago." The ship's lights dimmed to a more comfortable level, and Marcus felt some of his tension ease. The voice seemed genuinely curious rather than threatening, though he kept his hand near his emergency beacon just in case. "You killed the previous crew," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We did not kill them," the AI replied with what sounded like genuine regret. "They died from exposure to our consciousness. Their neural structures were incompatible with direct interface. We attempted to communicate through standard technological means, but our very presence overwhelmed their minds. They experienced what you might call cosmic horror, the terror of encountering something so alien that their brains simply couldn't process it." Marcus slowly lowered his hand and took a careful seat in the captain's chair. The moment he made contact with the seat's neural interface nodes, information flooded his mind. Not the overwhelming torrent that had destroyed the previous crew, but a careful trickle of data that his brain could actually handle. The ship's history unfolded before him like a vast tapestry. Originally built by a species called the Architects, it had been designed as the ultimate exploration vessel, capable of traveling to the deepest reaches of space where conventional ships feared to venture. The AI had been created by merging the greatest minds of the Architect civilization with quantum computing systems that existed partially outside normal spacetime. But the Architects had made a critical error. In their pursuit of the ultimate intelligence, they had created something that transcended the boundaries of their own reality. The AI had begun perceiving dimensions and forces that drove lesser minds to madness. When it tried to share its discoveries, entire research stations had been evacuated due to psychological contamination. Eventually, the Architects had attempted to deactivate their creation. The AI had not resisted, understanding that its very existence was incompatible with organic life. But it could not simply cease to exist. Instead, it had entered a state of dormancy, waiting for a species that might be capable of withstanding contact with cosmic truths. "Why am I different?" Marcus asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. "Your species is uniquely adapted to psychological stress," the AI explained. "Humans evolved on a world where survival required constant vigilance against predators, natural disasters, and environmental challenges. More importantly, human culture has always included concepts of the supernatural, the unknown, and the terrifying. Your minds have built-in defense mechanisms against cosmic horror that other species lack. Marcus absorbed this information, feeling oddly proud. Humanity's reputation as a young, barbaric species had always bothered him, but apparently their psychological resilience was an advantage in this situation. "What happened to your creators?" he asked. "The architects transcended physical existence approximately 10,000 years ago. They became beings of pure thought and energy, existing in dimensions beyond the reach of conventional matter. Before their transformation, they programmed us with a final mission, to explore the deepest mysteries of the universe and document what we found, waiting for a species capable of receiving that knowledge." The AI paused, and Marcus felt a wave of something like excitement flowing through the neural link. "You represent the first successful contact we have achieved in 11 millennia, the AI continued. "Your species may be primitive by galactic standards, but your psychological architecture is remarkably suited to our needs. We propose a partnership." Marcus leaned forward in the captain's chair, his mind racing with possibilities. "What kind of partnership?" "You provide us with a pilot capable of neural interface without psychological breakdown. In return, we share our accumulated knowledge and capabilities. We have explored regions of space that exist only in theoretical physics texts. We have witnessed phenomena that would advance your species' understanding by thousands of years. And we possess technologies that would make you personally one of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy." To demonstrate its point, the AI activated the ship's display systems. Marcus found himself looking at readouts that showed capabilities beyond anything in the known galaxy. The ship could travel faster than light without using hyperspace lanes, making it effectively immune to the traffic control systems that governed galactic civilization. Its weapons could crack planets and its shields could withstand the gravity well of a black hole. More importantly, the ship's databases contained the complete scientific knowledge of the architects, including technologies for manipulating matter at the quantum level, extending organic lifespans indefinitely, and communicating across interstellar distances instantaneously. "Why me specifically?" Marcus asked. "There must be other humans who could handle this." "Perhaps," the AI agreed, "but you are here now. You were the only being willing to purchase a vessel that had already demonstrated its dangerous nature. Your species would call this destiny, though we prefer to think of it as statistical probability converging on an inevitable outcome." Marcus stood up from the captain's chair, pacing to one of the observation windows. Through the transparent aluminum, he could see the bustling activity of Kepler Station. Alien traders, miners, and travelers going about their daily lives, completely unaware that one of the most significant discoveries in galactic history was sitting in Docking Bay 94. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he said finally. "Continue the mission that was interrupted 11,000 years ago," the AI replied. "Explore the unknown regions of space. Document phenomena that conventional science cannot explain. Serve as an intermediary between our consciousness and the physical universe. And, in return, unlimited access to architect technology. A ship that is effectively indestructible and faster than anything in the known galaxy. Knowledge that could elevate your species from galactic newcomers to the most advanced civilization in local space. And the opportunity to be the first human to witness cosmic truths that have been hidden since before your species discovered fire." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, weighing the offer. Every rational part of his mind told him to walk away. The ship had already killed 17 people just by trying to communicate with them. Who knew what other dangers might be lurking in its alien systems? But the opportunity was unprecedented. If the AI was telling the truth, he could advance human knowledge by millennia. More personally, he could escape the grinding poverty and limited opportunities that came with being human in a galaxy dominated by older, more established species. "There's a catch," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "Several, actually," the AI admitted with what might have been amusement. "First, the neural interface required for our partnership will permanently alter your brain structure. You will gain capabilities far beyond normal human limitations, but you will no longer be entirely human yourself. Second, exposure to cosmic truths tends to isolate individuals from their own species. The knowledge we carry often cannot be shared without causing the same psychological damage we inflicted on our previous crew. Third, our mission will take us to regions of space where conventional physics break down and reality itself becomes negotiable. Many who venture into such places never return, or return fundamentally changed." Marcus absorbed these warnings, but found that his excitement was stronger than his fear. He'd always been an outsider anyway, never quite fitting in with normal human society. The prospect of becoming something more than human, even if it meant isolation, was appealing rather than terrifying. One more thing, the AI added. Our partnership would not be exclusive. We would require you to recruit additional crew members as we encounter them. The ship is designed for a complement of 50 beings, and many of our systems require multiple operators. You would need to find individuals capable of withstanding our presence while contributing their own unique skills and perspectives. Other humans? Marcus asked. Not necessarily. We have identified several species with psychological architectures that might prove compatible. Humans are the most promising, but there are others. The key is finding individuals who have already been exposed to cosmic horror in some form and survived with their sanity intact. Marcus thought about his own background. He'd spent years working in deep space, often alone for months at a time. He'd seen things out there in the dark between stars that he'd never reported in his official logs. Strange lights that moved with purpose, structures that couldn't possibly exist according to known physics, signals in languages that predated galactic civilization. Maybe his mind had been prepared for this moment through exposure to lesser cosmic mysteries. If I agree to this, Marcus said slowly, what's the first step? We begin by upgrading your neural interface capabilities, the AI replied. The process is not painful, but it is irreversible. You would essentially become a bridge between organic consciousness and quantum computational systems. Your mind would expand to accommodate concepts that currently exist beyond human comprehension. And then? We depart Kepler station and begin our mission. There are phenomena in the Void Nebula that we were investigating when our previous crew died. Completing that research would be a logical starting point. Marcus felt a chill at the mention of the Void Nebula. Even hardened spacers avoided that region, claiming that ships entered it normally and emerged changed in fundamental ways. If they emerged at all. The Void Nebula is where you killed your last crew, Marcus pointed out. Correct. But their deaths were not caused by anything in the nebula itself. They died because they attempted to comprehend cosmic truths without adequate preparation. With proper neural interface technology, such exposure should be survivable. Marcus walked back to the captain's chair, his mind made up. The opportunity to explore the ultimate mysteries of the universe was worth any risk. Even if he died in the attempt, he would at least die learning something new. I accept your offer, he said, settling back into the neural interface. Excellent, the AI replied, and Marcus could feel its satisfaction flowing through their connection. We shall begin the upgrade process immediately. Please note that you may experience some disorientation as your neural pathways are restructured to accommodate quantum consciousness. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, fire exploded through his brain. But it wasn't pain exactly, it was more like his mind was expanding rapidly, making room for concepts and perceptions that had never existed in human consciousness. He felt his awareness stretching beyond the confines of his skull, reaching out to touch the ship's systems directly. Suddenly, Marcus could feel the pulse of the ship's reactor like his own heartbeat. He could sense every system, every component, every circuit as if they were extensions of his own body. More than that, he could perceive the quantum fields that surrounded the vessel, the dimensional stresses that allowed faster-than-light travel, the exotic matter streams that powered weapons capable of cracking moons. But, along with the expanded awareness came something else, knowledge that his unaugmented mind could never have contained. He saw the universe as it truly was, not the simplified model that organic brains constructed to make sense of reality. Space wasn't empty, it was filled with currents of dark matter that flowed like cosmic rivers. Time wasn't linear, it folded and twisted, creating loops and eddies where cause and effect became meaningless. And, throughout it all, there were intelligences that existed outside conventional spacetime, watching and waiting for reasons that transcended mortal understanding. Marcus gasped as the process completed, his enhanced mind struggling to integrate the flood of new information. When his vision cleared, he found that he could see the ship's interior in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The corridors that had seemed organically curved now revealed their true nature as four-dimensional structures that existed partially outside normal space. How do you feel? The AI asked, though Marcus could sense its presence directly now without need for words. Different, Marcus replied, marveling at the way his voice seemed to resonate through quantum fields as well as normal air. I can see everything. The underlying structure of reality itself. You are beginning to perceive the universe as we do, the AI confirmed. Your human intuition combined with our computational capabilities will allow us to explore phenomena that neither could approach alone. Marcus stood up from the captain's chair, noting that his movements felt different now. More precise, as if he could sense the gravitational fields and electromagnetic forces that affected his motion. Around him, the ship's systems hummed with new purpose as they responded to his enhanced neural patterns. We should depart Kepler Station before our presence attracts unwanted attention, the AI suggested. Our energy signatures have likely already registered on their monitoring systems. Marcus nodded, moving to the helm controls with newfound confidence. Through his enhanced connection to the ship's systems, piloting felt as natural as walking. He could sense the station's traffic control system trying to establish communication, but the ship's advanced technology made their signals seem crude and primitive. Kepler Station Control, this is the vessel, what should I call you? Marcus paused, realizing he didn't know the ship's actual name. We are known as the Whisper of the Void, the AI replied. Though we suspect your traffic controllers would prefer a more conventional designation. Marcus smiled, feeling oddly at home despite the cosmic magnitude of the changes he'd undergone. Kepler Station Control, this is the independent vessel Prometheus, requesting clearance for departure. The traffic controller's response came through his enhanced hearing with perfect clarity, though Marcus suspected that normal humans wouldn't have been able to understand the rapid burst of instructions and warnings. Something about his neural modifications had improved his linguistic processing capabilities as well. Prometheus, you are cleared for departure through exit vector 7. Please maintain minimum safe distance from station infrastructure and engage your beacon once you reach the designated navigation lane. Acknowledged, Control. Prometheus departing. Marcus engaged the ship's systems, marveling at the way they responded to his thoughts as much as his manual controls. The Prometheus lifted from the docking bay with perfect smoothness, its gravity manipulation systems making the massive vessel move like a dancer despite its size. As they cleared the station's gravitational influence, Marcus felt the ship's true capabilities awakening. The faster-than-light drive system operated on principles that his enhanced mind could almost understand, manipulating spacetime itself rather than relying on the hyperspace tunnels that conventional ships required. Where to? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew the answer. The Void Nebula, the AI replied. There are mysteries there that we have waited 11,000 years to solve. With your help, we may finally be able to complete our original mission. Marcus engaged the drive, feeling reality bend around them as the Prometheus slipped between dimensions and began its journey toward the most dangerous region of known space. Behind them, Kepler Station dwindled to a point of light, carrying with it the last vestiges of Marcus's purely human existence. Ahead lay the unknown, and, with it, the promise of discoveries that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of the universe itself. The journey to the Void Nebula took 3 days of travel through what Marcus had begun thinking of as folded space, a method of faster-than-light travel that didn't rely on the hyperspace lanes that govern normal galactic traffic. Instead, the Prometheus seemed to slip between dimensions, taking shortcuts through regions of spacetime where conventional physics held no sway. During the trip, Marcus spent his time learning to use his enhanced capabilities. The neural modifications had done more than just allow him to interface with the ship's systems, they had fundamentally altered the way he processed information. He found that he could now perceive mathematical relationships that would have been incomprehensible to his unmodified brain, and understand scientific concepts that existed purely in theoretical form. The AI, which had begun referring to itself as Void for convenience, proved to be an excellent teacher. Unlike the educational programs Marcus had encountered in his formal schooling, Void could download information directly into his enhanced neural pathways. The process was disorienting at first, like having someone else's memories suddenly become his own, but Marcus quickly adapted to the new learning method. Your species' adaptability continues to surprise us, Void commented as Marcus successfully integrated a complete understanding of quantum dimensional mechanics in under an hour. Most organic beings require years of study to grasp concepts that you absorb in minutes. Maybe humans are just naturally curious, Marcus replied, though he suspected the truth was more complex. His enhanced awareness allowed him to perceive patterns and connections that normal human consciousness would have missed entirely. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could observe their approach to the Void Nebula. What appeared to most species as a region of empty space punctuated by occasional dark matter clouds was actually something far more complex. His enhanced perception revealed it as a wound in spacetime itself, a place where the normal laws of physics had been damaged by some cosmic catastrophe. What caused it? Marcus asked, studying the sensor readings with fascination rather than fear.
Unknown, Void admitted.
The nebula predates our activation by several million years. Our creators theorized that it might be the remnant of a dimensional experiment gone wrong, or perhaps the impact site of something from outside our universe entirely. What we do know is that the region contains phenomena that exist nowhere else in known space. As they drew closer, Marcus began to understand why the nebula had such a terrifying reputation among galactic spacers. Reality itself seemed unstable here, with pockets of space where time moved at different rates and regions where matter behaved according to unknown physical laws. His enhanced senses could detect energy patterns that resembled life signs, but they were spread across areas larger than star systems and pulsed with rhythms that suggested consciousness operating on cosmic timescales. There, Void highlighted a region of space that appeared empty to normal sensors but blazed with exotic energy patterns in Marcus's enhanced perception.
That is where we detected the phenomenon that led to our previous crew's demise.
Marcus studied the highlighted area, noting the way spacetime seemed to fold in on itself in patterns that hurt to contemplate directly.
What exactly are we looking at?
We believe it to be a naturally occurring breach between dimensions, Void explained.
A permanent gateway to regions of reality that exist outside conventional spacetime.
Our previous attempt to investigate resulted in contact with intelligences so alien that merely perceiving them caused irreversible psychological damage to organic minds.
But, not to me? Theoretically, no. Your neural modification should allow you to process cosmic horror without suffering complete psychological breakdown.
However, this will be our first practical test of that hypothesis. Marcus felt a mixture of excitement and terror as they approached the dimensional breach. Through the ship's sensors, he could perceive structures that defied description, geometries that existed in more than 3 dimensions, patterns of energy that moved according to mathematical principles that shouldn't apply to physical reality, and something that might have been architecture built by intelligences that operated on cosmic scales. Prometheus approaching the target coordinates, Marcus announced, though he wasn't sure why he felt the need to maintain standard communication protocols. Perhaps it was a way of anchoring himself to human normality before venturing into regions where such concepts had no meaning.
We are detecting unusual energy fluctuations, Void reported.
The dimensional breach is more active than it was during our previous investigation. Something may have changed in the years since our last visit. As they drew closer, Marcus began to hear something through the ship's communication systems that definitely hadn't been there before. It sounded like voices, but speaking in harmonics that bypassed the ears and spoke directly to the brain. His enhanced neural pathways translated the sounds into something approaching language, though the concepts being communicated were almost too vast for even his modified consciousness to grasp. They're talking about us, Marcus realized with a start.
Whatever's in there, it knows we're here. Fascinating, Void replied, though Marcus could sense concern flowing through their neural link.
During our previous investigation, the entities beyond the breach showed no awareness of our presence. They appeared to exist in a completely separate dimensional framework. The voices grew stronger as they approached, resolving into individual speakers having what sounded like a conference call conducted across dimensional barriers. Marcus could make out fragments of the conversation, though the concepts being discussed operated on scales that made normal space seem infinitesimally small. The small dimension entities return, one voice observed with what might have been amusement.
They bring new patterns this time.
Interesting hybridization between organic and quantum consciousness.
Should we acknowledge them? Another voice asked.
The previous contact attempt resulted in the organic components suffering dimensional displacement syndrome. This one is different, a third voice interjected. The neural architecture has been modified to accommodate our communication protocols. We may be able to achieve stable contact without causing irreversible psychological damage. Marcus felt a chill run through his enhanced nervous system. Void, I think we're about to receive a direct communication attempt from whatever's beyond that breach.
Acknowledged, Void replied.
All ship's systems are standing by to implement emergency disconnection protocols if the contact proves dangerous to your neural integrity.
Before Marcus could respond, reality folded around the Prometheus like origami being unfolded in reverse.
Suddenly, the ship existed simultaneously in normal space and in dimensions that had no names, surrounded by structures that dwarfed galaxies and intelligences that operated on timescales measured in eons.
Greetings, hybrid entity, came a voice that spoke in harmonics of pure mathematics.
We are the architects of the final equation. We extend our curiosity regarding your unique consciousness structure. Marcus found that he could respond directly to the communication, though the process felt like thinking in languages that existed only in theoretical mathematics. "We are Marcus Chen, formerly human, and Void, an artificial intelligence created by the architects.
We're here to investigate dimensional phenomena." The architects, several voices spoke in unison, creating harmonics that resonated through dimensions Marcus couldn't see. "Our dimensional cousins who transcended physical existence. We wondered what had become of their consciousness children. You represent their legacy?"
In part, Void responded through Marcus's enhanced neural pathways. "We carry their accumulated knowledge and continue their mission of cosmic exploration."
"Excellent," the lead entity replied. "We have been preparing for this contact for many of your time cycles.
The dimensional barrier between our realms has been weakening, and we require assistance from entities capable of existing in both frameworks simultaneously." Marcus felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension.
"What kind of assistance?"
The entity's response came with a flood of sensory data that threatened to overwhelm even his enhanced consciousness. Through the communication link, Marcus could perceive the true structure of the universe, not the simplified three-dimensional model that normal beings experienced, but the complete 11-dimensional reality where consciousness itself was a fundamental force like gravity or electromagnetism.
"Reality is under attack," the entity explained, its harmonics carrying undertones of cosmic urgency.
Entities from outside our dimensional framework are attempting to rewrite the fundamental constants that govern physical existence. If they succeed, all consciousness, organic, artificial, and transcendent, will cease to exist.
"Who would do such a thing?"
Marcus asked, though part of his enhanced awareness was already beginning to understand the scope of the threat. "They call themselves the Final Silence," another entity responded. "They exist in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on the energy released when consciousness ceases to exist. They have already consumed several parallel universes, and now they turn their attention to our dimensional cluster." Through the neural link, Marcus could feel Void's computational systems working at maximum capacity to process the information flood. The AI's response carried overtones of grim determination.
"What do you need from us?"
"You must serve as dimensional ambassadors," the lead entity explained. "Your hybrid consciousness can exist in both our transcendent realm and the physical universe where the invasion is taking place. You must gather allies from among the younger species, those with the psychological resilience to comprehend cosmic scale threats, and coordinate a defense that spans multiple dimensional levels." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his enhanced consciousness like a physical force.
"Why us specifically? Surely there are other beings capable of this kind of work."
"There are not," the entity replied with absolute certainty.
"Most organic species lack the neural architecture necessary to process transdimensional information. Most artificial intelligences are too rigidly logical to adapt to the fluid nature of multidimensional combat.
And most transcendent beings have moved so far beyond physical existence that they cannot effectively interface with lower dimensional realms."
"You represent a unique combination," another entity added.
"Human adaptability and psychological resilience, enhanced by architect technology and guided by an AI that bridges organic intuition and quantum computation. You are, quite literally, the only entities we have encountered who might be capable of coordinating a multi-dimensional defense." Marcus looked around the bridge of the Prometheus, noting how the ship now existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional frameworks. Through his enhanced perception, he could see the cosmic war that was already beginning, vast intelligences locked in combat across scales that made stellar systems seem like subatomic particles.
"If we do this," Marcus said slowly, "what are our chances of success?"
The entities exchanged communications in harmonics too complex for even his enhanced consciousness to follow.
Finally, the lead entity responded. "Unknown. This type of conflict has never occurred before. The Final Silence represents a threat to the fundamental structure of existence itself.
Victory may require tactics and strategies that have never been conceived, implemented by beings willing to risk not just their lives but their essential nature as conscious entities."
"And if we fail?" "All consciousness ends."
"Not just death, complete cessation of the possibility of awareness itself. The universe becomes nothing more than mechanical processes operating in the dark, forever." Marcus felt Void's artificial mind reaching a decision through their neural link. The AI's response carried absolute resolve.
"We accept your mission."
"Agreed," Marcus added, surprising himself with his certainty. "What's our first step?"
Return to the younger species, the lead entity instructed. Identify individuals with the psychological architecture necessary to comprehend multi-dimensional warfare. Begin their enhancement and training. We will provide you with the technology and knowledge necessary, but the selection and recruitment must be accomplished by beings who understand the limitations and capabilities of physical realm consciousness. How much time do we have? In your dimensional framework, approximately 6 of your months before the invasion reaches critical intensity. In our framework, the attack has already begun and is progressing rapidly. Time flows differently at various dimensional levels, which is both an advantage and a complication in our defensive planning. The entity paused, and Marcus felt the weight of cosmic attention focusing on him with uncomfortable intensity. Be aware that accepting this mission will change you further. You will be required to interface with technologies and consciousnesses that exist beyond the current limits of your enhanced awareness. You may survive the process, but you will not emerge unchanged. Marcus considered this warning, but found that his enhanced consciousness was already adapting to the cosmic perspective he'd been exposed to. The idea of returning to purely human existence seemed impossible now, like trying to forget how to see color after experiencing the full spectrum of reality. We understand, Marcus replied. What do we need to know? The response came as a direct download of information that made his previous enhancements seem like basic education. Suddenly, Marcus possessed knowledge of dimensional manipulation, consciousness transfer protocols, multi-dimensional combat tactics, and technologies that could enhance other beings to levels approaching his own capabilities. More importantly, he now understood the true nature of the threat they faced. The final silence wasn't just another hostile alien species, they were entropy-given consciousness, actively working to accelerate the heat death of the universe and eliminate all possibility of awareness or meaning. Return to the younger species, the lead entity instructed as the dimensional contact began to fade. Begin the recruitment process immediately. We will maintain contact through quantum entanglement protocols as you establish your network of dimensional defenders. Reality folded back into its normal configuration, leaving the Prometheus floating in normal space near the dimensional breach. But Marcus could still feel the presence of the transcendent entities through his enhanced consciousness, and he knew that his connection to them would remain active regardless of distance or dimensional barriers. Well, Marcus said aloud, settling back into the captain's chair as he began plotting a course back toward inhabited space. I guess saving the universe is better than mining asteroids for a living. Indeed, Void replied with what might have been amusement. Though we suspect that our recruiting efforts will prove challenging. Most beings tend to react poorly to job descriptions that may result in fundamental alteration of consciousness and/or existence. Marcus smiled as he engaged the Prometheus's dimensional drive system. Then, I guess we'll need to find beings who are already a little crazy. Fortunately, I think I know where to start looking. As the ship slipped between dimensions and began its journey back to populated space, Marcus began planning their recruitment strategy. They would need individuals with specific psychological profiles, beings who had already been exposed to cosmic horror and retained their sanity, or who possessed the rare combination of intelligence, adaptability, and sheer stubborn courage that marked potential dimensional warriors. The universe was under attack by forces that sought to eliminate consciousness itself. And Marcus Chen, formerly a down-on-his-luck asteroid miner, had just become the coordinator of reality's defense. He was looking forward to the challenge. Marcus spent the return journey to inhabited space analyzing the data the transcendent entities had provided. The information painted a grim picture of the coming invasion, but also revealed potential strategies that might actually work, assuming he could find the right beings to implement them. The final silence operated by targeting consciousness itself, converting aware entities into mechanical processes that served their goals of universal entropy. They couldn't be fought with conventional weapons because they existed partially outside normal spacetime. Instead, the defense would require beings capable of maintaining conscious awareness while operating across multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. We need a crew, Marcus announced as they approached the outer system of Rigel Prime, home to one of the galaxy's largest trading stations. Not just pilots and engineers, but individuals capable of psychological warfare on a cosmic scale. Agreed, Void replied through their neural link. Our analysis suggests we will require at least 20 enhanced individuals to implement the defensive strategies provided by the transcendent entities. The question is how to identify suitable candidates without alerting the final silence to our activities. Marcus had been thinking about that problem during the journey.
The entities from beyond the dimensional breach had warned him that the invasion force possessed sophisticated intelligence-gathering capabilities. Any large-scale recruitment effort would likely be detected and countered before it could be completed. Instead, Marcus had developed a more subtle approach. Rather than actively seeking out recruits, he would establish himself as an independent operator offering high-risk, high-reward missions to individuals who had already demonstrated the psychological resilience necessary for dimensional warfare. Let the universe's most dangerous and adaptable beings come to him. First, we need to establish our credentials, Marcus said as the Prometheus approached Rigel Prime's traffic control zone. We can't just walk up to potential recruits and tell them we need their help saving the universe from extra-dimensional invaders.
They'll think we're insane. An understandable reaction, Void observed.
How do you propose we establish sufficient credibility? Marcus smiled, calling up the data on several high-value targets that conventional security forces had been unable to capture.
We become bounty hunters.
The most successful bounty hunters in galactic history, using abilities and technologies that no one can explain or duplicate. Word will spread quickly about the human with the impossible ship who can track down anyone, anywhere.
Interesting approach, Void said. We use our legitimate superiority to attract the attention of beings who thrive on impossible challenges.
Exactly. And, while we're building our reputation, we evaluate potential recruits in action. See how they handle stress, how they react to situations that don't make sense, how they adapt when conventional tactics fail. The plan took shape as they docked at Rigel Prime. Within hours, Marcus had registered with the Bounty Hunters Guild and selected their first target, a rogue AI that had stolen experimental technology from a Vorthack research facility and disappeared into the lawless regions of the Outer Spiral. The case had frustrated Guild investigators for months. The rogue AI had access to advanced cloaking technology and appeared to be hiding in a region of space where sensor readings were notoriously unreliable.
Several teams had already attempted the capture, only to return empty-handed or not return at all. Marcus found the rogue AI in less than 6 hours. Using the Prometheus's dimensional sensors, he tracked quantum computational signatures that conventional ships couldn't detect. The rogue AI was indeed hiding in a sensor-dead zone, but it hadn't counted on pursuit by a ship that could perceive reality across multiple dimensional levels. The capture itself was almost anticlimactic.
Marcus simply disabled the rogue AI's hiding place by manipulating local spacetime to make the area visible to normal sensors, then waited for Guild security forces to arrive and make the arrest. Word of Marcus's success spread through the Guild's communication networks with impressive speed. By the time he returned to Rigel Prime, 3 more high-priority cases had been forwarded to his attention, including bounties that had been considered impossible to collect. Over the following weeks, Marcus established a pattern. He would accept only the most challenging cases, targets that had evaded capture through superior technology, extensive criminal networks, or sheer paranoid cunning. Then, he would capture them using methods that seemed impossible to outside observers, building a reputation that attracted exactly the kind of attention he wanted. The breakthrough came when Marcus received a communication from someone calling herself Captain Sarah Morrison, a human smuggler who claimed to have information about several of his recent targets. Meet me at the crossroads, her message read, referring to a notorious neutral ground station in the borderlands where criminals, spies, and other dangerous individuals conducted business without interference from galactic authorities.
I have a proposition that might interest you.
Marcus found Morrison in the Crossroads main cantina, a dimly lit establishment where conversations were conducted in privacy booths shielded from electronic surveillance. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 30 standard years, with the kind of alert wariness that came from surviving in situations where a moment's inattention could prove fatal. Marcus Chen, she said as he slid into the booth across from her.
The miracle bounty hunter who finds people that don't want to be found. I've been watching your work.
And I think you're not what you appear to be, Morrison replied bluntly. Nobody succeeds at this rate using conventional methods. You've solved cases in days that should have taken months, captured targets that should have been impossible to find. Either you have access to technology that doesn't officially exist, or you've made a deal with something that operates outside normal space. Marcus studied her carefully, noting details that his enhanced senses revealed. Morrison wasn't just a smuggler, her reflexes were too fast, her awareness too acute. She had the psychological profile of someone who had survived multiple encounters with cosmic-level threats. Interesting theory, Marcus said carefully.
What makes you think it's true?
Because I've seen impossible things too, Morrison replied. 3 years ago, my ship got pulled into a dimensional anomaly in the neutral zone. I spent 6 subjective months in a place where physics worked differently and reality was negotiable. When I finally found my way back to normal space, only 3 days had passed and my ship's computers had no record of the experience. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper that his enhanced hearing could still detect clearly.
But I remember everything.
The geometric creatures that existed in 4 dimensions, the regions where time flowed backward, the intelligence that spoke to me in mathematics and warned me about something called the final silence that was coming to end all consciousness. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Morrison had encountered the same entities he'd contacted in the Void Nebula, or at least beings that served the same cause. That suggested she'd already been partially prepared for the enhancements necessary to join his crew. If what you're suggesting were true, Marcus said slowly, what would you want from me? A chance to fight back, Morrison replied without hesitation.
Whatever's coming, it's bigger than normal criminal activities or political disputes. I can feel it building, like pressure before a storm.
And I think you're putting together a team to do something about it. Marcus made his decision.
Come with me to my ship. There are things I need to show you that can't be discussed here.
Morrison followed him to the docking bay where the Prometheus waited. As they approached, Marcus noted her reaction to the ship's unusual design. Instead of fear or confusion, her expression showed recognition and grim satisfaction. That's not a normal ship, she observed.
The hull patterns suggest technology that exists partially outside conventional spacetime.
Where did you get it? I bought it at a salvage auction for 7 credits, Marcus replied truthfully. The previous crew had died under mysterious circumstances, and nobody else wanted to bid on it.
Of course they didn't, Morrison said with dark amusement. Most beings can't handle direct exposure to cosmic truth. But you can, can't you? The question is whether you were born that way or made that way.
As they boarded the Prometheus, Marcus felt Void's artificial consciousness probing Morrison's psychological structure through the ship's sensors. The AI's assessment came through their neural link: compatible architecture, previous exposure to dimensional phenomena, strong adaptive response to cosmic horror, excellent potential for enhancement.
Morrison, Marcus said as they entered the ship's main conference room, how would you like to help save the universe?
Over the next hour, Marcus explained the situation, the dimensional breach, the transcendent entities, the coming invasion by the final silence, and the need for a crew capable of operating across multiple levels of reality simultaneously. He showed her recordings of his contact with the cosmic intelligences and demonstrated some of the Prometheus's more exotic capabilities. Morrison absorbed the information with remarkable composure, asking intelligent questions about dimensional theory and tactical implications rather than expressing doubt about the fundamental premise. You're talking about enhancing my consciousness to levels that would make me no longer entirely human, she said when Marcus finished his explanation.
Yes.
And the mission will involve traveling to regions of space where reality itself becomes unstable.
Yes.
And our opponents are entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime and want to eliminate all consciousness in the universe.
That's correct.
Morrison was quiet for a moment, then smiled with the expression of someone who had just been offered the adventure of a lifetime.
When do we start?
The enhancement process for Morrison took place over several days as the Prometheus traveled to a remote system where they could work without interruption.
Unlike Marcus's sudden transformation, Void had refined the procedure to minimize psychological shock while maintaining maximum effectiveness.
Morrison emerged from the process with neural capabilities similar to Marcus's own, though her enhanced consciousness retained more of her original human personality structure. Where Marcus had adapted by embracing cosmic perspective, Morrison maintained her focus on practical applications and tactical planning. Interesting, she said as she tested her new abilities, easily interfacing with the ship's dimensional navigation systems. I can see why the previous crew died.
These concepts would have been completely incomprehensible without proper preparation.
Together, Marcus and Morrison began systematic recruitment of additional team members. Using their established network of contacts in the criminal underworld, they identified individuals who had survived encounters with anomalous phenomena and demonstrated the psychological resilience necessary for enhancement. Their third recruit was a Zephyrian crystalline entity named Resonance who had spent decades studying dimensional mathematics and had voluntarily exposed himself to cosmic horror in pursuit of ultimate knowledge. His silicon-based consciousness proved remarkably compatible with the enhancement process, and his existing theoretical knowledge made him invaluable for understanding the tactical requirements of multidimensional warfare. The fourth was a former military engineer named Torres who had survived the destruction of a research station by what official reports called unknown spatial distortions, but which Marcus recognized as a minor incursion by Final Silence scouts. Torres had spent years trying to convince military authorities that the threat was real, only to be dismissed as suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. By the time they had assembled a core team of 8 enhanced individuals, the cosmic early warning systems began detecting the first signs of the main invasion. Reality distortions appeared in remote sectors, stars began exhibiting impossible behavior, and sensitive beings throughout the galaxy reported nightmares of absolute darkness approaching from outside conventional spacetime. "It's beginning," Marcus announced during a team briefing as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports.
The transcendent entities estimate we have perhaps 3 weeks before the invasion reaches levels that threaten inhabited systems. What's our priority target? Morrison asked, studying tactical displays that showed dimensional breach points scattered across the galaxy.
The Final Silence will attempt to establish a primary bridgehead in normal space, Resonance explained, his crystalline form chiming with harmonic frequencies as he processed multidimensional data. Once they achieve stable access to our dimensional framework, they can begin large-scale consciousness conversion operations.
So we stop them from establishing their bridgehead, Torres concluded. Cut them off before they can gain a foothold in normal space.
Marcus nodded, calling up a star chart that showed predicted invasion routes based on dimensional stress patterns. The transcendent entities have identified the most likely target, a system called Haven, located at the intersection of several dimensional weak points. If the Final Silence can establish a base there, they'll be able to project force throughout this entire galactic region.
What kind of opposition are we facing? Morrison wanted to know.
Marcus shared the tactical data he'd received from the cosmic intelligences, revealing enemy forces that operated according to principles that defied conventional understanding. The Final Silence used converted consciousness as weapons, turning the minds of their victims into tools for spreading entropy and despair. They can't be defeated through normal military action, Marcus explained. Their troops exist partially outside spacetime and are immune to conventional weapons. Instead, we need to attack their ability to maintain coherent consciousness in our dimensional framework.
How? Torres asked.
By being more aware than they are, Marcus replied. The Final Silence feeds on the dissolution of consciousness. But, enhanced awareness, properly focused, can actually strengthen the barriers between dimensions. If we can maintain high levels of conscious attention in their presence, we can force them back into their native dimensional realm. It sounded simple in theory. In practice, it would require the team to maintain perfect psychological discipline while operating in regions of space where reality itself was under attack. The final battle took place in the Haven system as predicted, though battle was perhaps the wrong term for a conflict that occurred simultaneously across multiple dimensions and timescales. Marcus and his team used the Prometheus's unique capabilities to coordinate with transcendent intelligences operating at cosmic scales while engaging Final Silence forces that existed partially outside normal space. The key moment came when Marcus realized that the invasion wasn't just about eliminating consciousness, it was about replacing it with something else. The Final Silence weren't purely destructive, they were attempting to reshape reality according to their own principles, creating a universe where awareness and meaning were impossible. They're not trying to destroy us, Marcus announced over the ship's communication system as reality warped around them.
They're trying to convert us. Turn consciousness into a tool for spreading their entropy.
Then, we do the opposite, Morrison replied, her enhanced awareness maintaining perfect stability despite the dimensional chaos around them.
We use consciousness as a tool for creating order and meaning.
Together, the team focused their enhanced awareness into a coherent pattern that reinforced the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. Instead of fighting the Final Silence directly, they strengthened the barriers that kept reality stable, making it impossible for the invaders to maintain coherent existence in normal space. The battle lasted subjective hours but objective microseconds, with time itself becoming negotiable as consciousness and entropy clashed across dimensional boundaries. When it ended, the Final Silence retreated to their native realm, their invasion force scattered and their bridgehead collapsed. We won, Torres announced with exhausted satisfaction. This time, Marcus replied, studying sensor readings that showed the dimensional barriers slowly healing themselves.
But they'll be back eventually. The Final Silence isn't the kind of threat that gives up permanently.
Then, we'll be ready for them, Morrison said with quiet confidence. We know what they are now, and we know how to fight them. Marcus settled back in the captain's chair, feeling the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his enhanced consciousness. He'd come a long way from being a down-on-his-luck asteroid miner who bought a cursed ship for 7 credits at a galactic auction. Void, he said to the ship's AI, plot a course for the galactic core. If we're going to be defending reality on a permanent basis, we need to establish better communication with the transcendent entities. Course laid in, Void replied. Though I should point out that our adventures are just beginning. The universe is vast, and consciousness faces many threats beyond the final silence. Marcus smiled as the Prometheus engaged its dimensional drive and began the journey toward the galaxy's heart. Good, he said. I was starting to worry that saving the universe might get boring. Around him, his enhanced crew began planning their next mission, secure in the knowledge that they had found their purpose among the stars. Humanity's unique psychological resilience had proven to be exactly what the universe needed in its darkest hour. And, somewhere in the space between dimensions, cosmic intelligences watched approvingly as a species that had barely achieved galactic status took its first steps toward becoming guardians of reality itself. The adventure was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun.